government. In an important development, the Supreme Court has stepped in and has ordered that the stranded migrants should be provided food by concerned states. The Supreme Court has also asked railways to provide meals, water in trains. Hearing the plight of lakhs of desperate migrants who are trying to head back home in the lockdown, the top court had taken the matter suo moto. That means suo moto cognizance. Nobody had filed a complaint. The Supreme Court on its own decided to hear this matter. It has directed that the stranded migrants not be charged either train or bus fares. Arunachalam Vaidyanathan now joins us with all the latest. Vaidya, what specifically are the orders that have been given, the interim orders that have been given by the court?
Sanket, apart from what you said about the fares and other thing, another important aspect which the court questioned the center and the states is, see, the large number of migrants are standing at the railway station, at the bus stand. They don't know when they would get the chance to get into the train. The Supreme Court said that what is the time limit? Have you prescribed anything? What is the total number of migrants? When they will get it? Is there any data? So it has called for a nationwide data to be submitted to the court. Number of migrants, what is the nationwide plan? Whether if there is any sort of waiting list, the migrants should be informed. They also said that all migrants should be registered by the state government and they should be informed when they would be taken out. So till such time, relief should be provided to them. And another interesting aspect of, after seeing so many, social media as well as the television and all, migrants walking down for a long period, the court said that whoever, the migrants who are walking, if they are found, immediately state government should take them to the shelters. So Tushar Mehta, the Solicitor General who was present in the court, said that this last part of the order will create chaos because everyone will start walking. Of course, courts didn't heed to him and said that this should be followed.
All right, Vaidya, many thanks for joining us with all the latest. Of course, we must not forget that the Supreme Court decided to take this suo moto cognizance of this matter because it feels that perhaps somewhere it needs to intervene and come in. Why did it feel the need? Perhaps was this a failure of the centre and the state governments who got into a verbal brawl with the migrants as collateral damage. Now, Uttar Pradesh faces an enormous challenge in the coming days, that of feeding crores of poor, many of whom are out of jobs right now because of the coronavirus pandemic and the stringent lockdown imposed because of the disease. To add to the burden of India's most populous state, over 20 lakh migrant workers have returned to their UP villages from other states in the last 2 months, and many more are expected to return. So how will everyone be fed? Alok Pandey and Prabhat Kumar filed this report.
Uttar Pradesh's big worry amid the coronavirus lockdown: how to feed the over 20 lakh migrants who've returned home. Since the lockdown began, the state government has made over 8 lakh new ration cards in UP, including for migrant workers. But in the state's remote and backward Sonbhadra district, Ravindra Prasad Paswan, a 35-year-old migrant worker who returned from Gujarat a month ago, says he is still struggling to get a ration card in place.
कार्ड बनाने के लिए प्रधान जी को फार्म भरवा करके दे दिए थे।
अच्छा, तो क्या बोले प्रधान जी?
प्रधान जी बोले कि ठीक है, हम आगे भिजवा दे रहे हैं। इसके बाद जब आएगा तो जाके पता कर लें डीलर के पास। तो डीलर के पास गए तो वहाँ कोई व्यवस्था नहीं हुआ, बोला कि नहीं अभी नहीं आने पाया है, जब आएगा तो कंफर्म करेंगे आपको। गुजरात में काम कर रहे थे, वहाँ के जितना पैसा बचा था खा पी करके तो बराबर कर दिए हैं। अगर आए दिन आएंगे तो 2 बच्चा है, पत्नी है, हम है, कहाँ से खाएंगे पिएंगे।
It's not only migrant workers who are worried in Sonbhadra. In the Kachnarwa Gram Panchayat, over 100 ration card applications are stuck in red tape.
259 के आसपास फार्म भरवा चुके और इससे बाद से लगभग 140-42 फार्म एक्टिव करके हम लोग जो है वितरण कर दिए क्षेत्र में, और शेष फार्म जो है लगभग 100 के आसपास जो बच रहे हैं वो सर प्रोग्रेस में है। अभी वो लगभग हमें लग रहा है कि 15-20 दिन में वो भी आ जाएगी।
Among those waiting for their ration cards, 30-year-old Bhagwanti Devi, whose labourer husband is stuck in Prayagraj.
लॉकडाउन के बीच में और अब तक जब से लॉकडाउन है तब तक कितना कार्ड बना है, कितने लोगों ने आवेदन किया है?
आवेदन किया है 18,150 लोगों ने, इसमें 7,598 लोगों की फीडिंग विभागीय वेबसाइट पर कराई गई जनपद की ऊपरी सीमा पूरा हो जाने के कारण अब अवशेष कार्डों की फीडिंग नहीं होता है।
Officials in East UP's Gonda told NDTV they have received 32,000 new ration card applications since the lockdown, of which 10,946 or one-third have been processed. In Devariya, a big East UP migration hub, officials claimed to have processed 70,000 new ration cards in 2 months, but refused to share how many they haven't. The UP government says that just in May, they have distributed 5 kg free rice each to as many as 13 crore people, and this is over and above their paid entitlement. But with more and more migrant workers returning home, the challenge of keeping everyone fed is immense. With Prabhat Kumar and Sonbhadra, this is Alok Pandey, NDTV.
All right, joining us right now are two very special guests this evening. I have Dr. Abhishek Manu Singhvi, who also appeared in court in this matter, and senior lawyer in the Supreme Court, Mr. R.M. Sundaram. Thank you so much to the two of you for speaking on this very, very important and crucial issue. Dr. Singhvi, let me begin with you. And before you tell us what exactly happened in court, what you argued, I want to understand from you, do you feel that the Supreme Court having to take a suo motu cognizance itself is proof that something was not happening right as far as the handling of this migrant crisis?
See, first and foremost, I appeared in it in my capacity as an officer of the court.
Sure.
We decided that there will be no person you are representing, and I was heard in the capacity of an officer in the court, which, by the way, is the main reason I am also appearing in your program. Because otherwise, if I appear for a client, I don't really go to programs in that manner.
Sure.
Number two, the reason I am appearing with you is because it was therefore, as an officer of the court, only concrete, real suggestions that we made. So I made 5 suggestions, which I also gave in a note. But yes, answering your question, I will put it like this, that on 30th March, and this is important, perhaps the court was misled into a false sense of security by a recorded statement which says, quote unquote, the Solicitor General says for the central government that not a single migrant is walking or allowed to walk. Those are words which should really haunt the central government, because from 30th onwards, we have seen the most deplorable scenes. And I'm glad that the court realized that the problem is much more enormous than was projected to them and recorded in writing in their order on 30th March. But I do believe, with the greatest respect, that a 2-month delay was too long. It should have been much, much earlier. And nevertheless, what is happening now is worth going into. And I believe that concrete suggestions, if they are translated into directions within the next date, if we don't have much time, then a lot would have been gained and the delay would be covered up.
Okay. R.M. Sundaram, would you like to respond to what Dr. Singhvi is saying? He seems to suggest that the court was misled by the Solicitor General. You know, a lot of observations and the interim directions that have been given by the Supreme Court, many would say is basic sense. This should have already happened. Like no fare either by train or bus, food should be provided, and the list goes on. First of all, your response to the allegation.
The first thing I need to point out is, as my friend Dr. Singhvi makes it very clear, that first representation was made sometime on 30th March. We have to understand one thing, that I don't think, and here nobody can say that exonerate anybody from what has happened. The fact is, I don't think it was foreseen the extent of reverse migration that would take place. Possibly it was also because the lockdown itself was, for a given period of time, it was expected to be lifted, then it was extended from time to time. This reverse migration issue gained momentum as the lockdown got longer and longer. Otherwise, this reverse migration may not have happened to the extent that it has, because all these people had voluntarily migrated for the purpose of employment, and now they're going back because of the suffering they're finding because everything was closed due to the lockdown. So therefore, what was envisaged at the end of March possibly did not take into account an extended lockdown with the extent of reverse migration that will take place. And to that extent, without a doubt, I think all governments, and not only the central government, I'd say all state governments, were found absolutely, were caught napping, and they were lacking in many ways because I don't think it was thought through and arranged the way it was. So far as the court coming in at this juncture is concerned, it's because the problem is monumental, and I don't believe that the court has entered the picture because they find that the governments are inactive, but rather have entered the picture to see whether the court can also consider various things which could be of assistance, since basically Article 21 of the Constitution gets affected. And therefore, the courts coming in now, I would say, is a very healthy play of democracy, where the judiciary also has its role to play.
Mr. Sundaram,
the government, of course, has a role to play.
And
nobody can exonerate what has happened.
You know, this point that you...
please do.
Mr. Sundaram, this point that you seem to be making, you know, I'm going to read out the interim directions of the Supreme Court, and you tell me, what does this sound? Does this sound like something that the court should be telling the governments, or the government should be doing on their own? No fare either by train or bus shall be charged from migrant workers, fare to be shared by states. Migrant workers who are stranded shall be provided food by the concerned states at places which shall be publicized and notified for the period that they are waiting for their return. In the train journey, the originating states will provide meal and water, railway to provide meal and water, food and water to also be provided in buses. This goes on and on. Now, Mr. Sundaram, when you say that this was not criticism of anyone or any state government or any central government, I would say that
No, I did not say that at all.
For the Supreme
I did
Court
not
to
say that
something
at
like
all.
this.
Sorry, I think you misunderstood what I said. I did not say that. I said, in fact, because of the volume of the problem which has turned out, all the states have been caught napping, and nobody can doubt that what all was needed to be done was not done, perhaps due to the fact that the extent of it was not foreseen. So I said that very clearly.
So
but I was talking about the court's intervention in it. I said was a very healthy practice.
No, it is a healthy practice.
Our judicial intervention when Article 21 comes into play. But at the same time, let's accept one fact. The colossal nature of the problem was actually, I would say, if any error came in, was of all the states not foreseeing the
important point. Dr. Singhvi wants to come in.
Which was going to arise. And that is the whole point.
Yeah, Arema Sundaram seems to suggest, Dr. Singhvi, and you know, we are seeing this state versus center argument one more time and all over again. Arema Sundaram feels that the states did not live up to their side of the duty.
I will tell you why I don't agree with him partially. I think it's deplorable that the central government says that we have all manner of power to give you direction from top to bottom to the tehsil level because of the crisis, and using the Disaster Management Act, which in normal times would not allow them to do so on the principles of federalism, but which a pandemic does allow them to do. Now, on the one hand, you exercise this expansive jurisdiction to give any manner of direction to any corner of India. On the other, you throw your hands up when it comes to your obligation and say, today it was repeated. And therefore, one of my 5 sessions to the court was that today the government repeated 10 times that the entire cost is not borne by the migrant, but is borne either by the receiving or the sending state. Now, why do I don't agree with this, Sundaram? Because everybody knows that the states at the end of the day are penurious. There are huge problems with states. They are certainly not as well off as the center. Why does the central government not chip in even a fraction? The railways charges full 100%. It gets the receiving or the sending state to pay. So that burden ultimately comes somewhere on the state which cannot fulfill its obligation to all migrants. They will do it for partial migrants. No state has the money to cover all. The state, why should the central government not do that? I have not found any answer. Of course, this is apart from the abuses that there were states admitted today in the hearing, like Bihar. Who seek reimbursement from migrants, which is ridiculous. That is one minute. Second, the question was about pinpointing whether there was delay even in the welcome intervention report. I think it would be less than candid if we did not say that there was delay. This should have happened earlier, but that it has happened now is welcome, obviously.
Okay, Arima Sundaram, the point that you seem to, before you reply, my question is, the point that you seem to be making, I just thought to myself, you're saying that it's good that the courts have intervened. Dr. Singhvi is also saying that perhaps this should have happened earlier, but this is a good intervention. Do you feel that a court monitored action plan is the only way we'll be able to work cohesively? Again, I see the same center versus state problem. There is friction, massive friction. I would say a trust deficit. Do you think a court monitored action plan is the only solution to deal with a migrant crisis as huge as this?
Well, let me answer you straight away. The state versus central problems are found time and again because of the nature of our constitution. And these are problems which we will keep finding. Unfortunately, right now, it is cropped up even in an issue of a pandemic like this at a very desperate time. But unfortunately, constitutionally, there's enough room given where these kind of disputes can arise, which is why I said the court's intervention at this time is very healthy, and it is also very good because constitutionally the court has the power, and the court finding that what is happening today deserves to be dealt with in a manner where a dicta can be given by the court, where a direction can be given by the court which will have to be obeyed, irrespective of whether it was the state's duty or the center's duty, irrespective of whether constitutionally it is within one subject or another subject, irrespective of whether any direction passed by the court could otherwise be thought to be encroaching on some powers of the state vis-a-vis some powers of the center. Irrespective of all that, the court coming in now is an answer to what is a very, very serious pandemic situation. And the court has stepped in as a guardian of Article 21 of the Constitution and to ensure the life and liberty of all persons.
So
that's why I said it's very opportune that it's come.
It's opportune.
For the very reason that you yourself have said, the state-centered kind of debates which go on.
So, Dr. Singhvi...
So, it is the court which can come in and give its imprimatur and say,
Dr. Singhvi,
do it this way.
It's very clear
and it's
at
not
this
for
moment,
the state or center then to bargain
a state-center dispute is the last thing that we want as of this moment. This friction will arise, and as Arima Sundaram says that, it is a result of our constitution, but you can't do away with the constitution. But a constitutional method of tiding over this is the court's intervention, Dr. Singhvi. Do you think that's our only last option?
No one is suggesting that there is anybody looking for a center-state dispute at the moment. That would be ridiculous. No state has filed such a petition, and I don't think people are going to look forward to that. The point I am making is an operational point, not a constitutional dispute point. Obviously, if the dispute is raised, in fact, without even a dispute now, ultimately, in the fullness of time, these issues should be decided in law, but at the fullness of time, not during a pandemic. However, the point I'm making is different. I'm saying the central government cannot claim highly expansive power, forgetting all norms of federalism, because of a pandemic, which nobody is grudging them. There's no dispute. So I'm saying, even though you may be transgressing your boundaries, I know you're in a pandemic, so I won't challenge. Which state is challenged? None. At the same breath, the central government is what I'm blaming, cannot say, ki chit bhi meri, pat bhi meri. I will expand excise power, but when it comes to responsibility, I won't give a penny. That's the question I'm saying. Why is it? Please tell me, in today's hearing was revealing, the central government admitted that 100% is charged by the railways, what you and I pay in normal time. The only difference is that it is divided, it is paid 100% either by the receiving or the sending state, which is okay for the time being. You have at least avoided the migrants' plight, although in some states even that is happening. But let's leave that. The question is, you know that these states can only touch a fraction of the migrants with the resources at their command. You need to empower. Why can't you give? The estimate was by a Nobel laureate, 76,000 crores would be a 5,500 rupee injection to each migrant. Now, you can't get that kind of injection from the state government.
That I agree. But Dr. Singhvi, again, I come back to my main question. Then, in a situation like this, should courts be the ultimate place to go for monitoring, for implementation?
I think the answer to that is a nuanced one. The courts, in a technical, legal sense, are not the ones who can decide and go into governance issues. But equally, the courts are the ones who have the highest prestige in the country and who exercise a certain degree of control and fear amongst those who have to implement.
Okay.
So given that fact, the reality is that we have to turn to courts. Ultimately, the courts become the sentinel and the guardian. And while avoiding direct governance issues, can give the push, give the nudge, give the pressure, give the direction, give the guidance.
So you do admit that there has been, there is a need for a court nudge and push in a situation like this.
Yes,
okay,
absolutely.
very quickly. Last word from Mr. Arima Sundaram. Last word. Just your right to reply
I
to
tend
what
to agree
Dr. Singhvi
with
has said.
my friend Dr. Singhvi. I tend to agree with my friend Dr. Singhvi to this extent that yes, the question of the court giving a nudge and a push is very, very welcome. So far as your question as to whether there should be a court monitored action plan, I disagree with that. I disagree with that because I feel, as Dr. Singhvi says, that's a question of governance. And what the court has really done is to give indicators of where all action should be taken. It doesn't mean that the court now will become the administrator to ensure as to what is being done, especially not in a pandemic. Nor do I think it is the intention of the court to make itself the monitor of the government over this.
Sure. Okay. Dr. Singhvi as well as Arima Sundaram, thank you so much. All I can say is that while all of this is happening, there are millions of people, millions of migrants who are still suffering, lakhs and lakhs of them on the road, and this pain has to end as soon as possible. Thank you so much.